Hey guys, Brooklyn Bound here with another video to show you how to complete the 4 raid triumphs in the Garden of Salvation. These are required to finish the Enlightened seal. There are also 4 challenges that I'll cover separately in another video since they went live on November 5th. Today, I'm going to cover these specific triumphs: Voltaic Tether, Repulsion Theory, Relay Rally, and Stop Hitting Yourself. So, let's go. The first triumph is called Voltaic Tether, and it's done in the first encounter. The challenge states, escape the consecrated mind while allowing only players with the Voltaic overflow to tether. This triumph is fairly straightforward. Only players with the Voltaic overflow can be in the tether chain to open the doors, including the first one. So, to start, shoot the Minotaur and start the encounter. After 3 overflows have been dropped, those 3 players will tether to the first door and open it. You should have about 1 minute and 20 seconds or so remaining on the first person's buff to clear all the adds in the next room and open the next door before that person loses their overflow buff. The other 3 stay behind collecting the buffs as normal. Once the second door is open, players with the newly acquired buffs should push forward, and players with expiring buffs or no buffs should stay behind. So, some swapping and communication is definitely going to be necessary. Keep repeating this. Note, you may need some players to double back and collect buffs as they expire. Just make sure you never jump in a tether chain without the buff, with at least about 10 to 15 seconds left, because it can take some time for the tether to create and open the door. Once you've finished it, you can claim your triumph. The second triumph is called Repulsion Theory, and is done during the second encounter. The challenge states, summon the consecrated mind without tethering to a relay while enlightened. This one's a little tricky, but clearly the challenge here is that you cannot tether with an enlightenment, meaning you have to wait for it to expire before retethering. The biggest issue here is going to be timing. If you do the 2, 2, and 2 strat, you'll need people to double back and work in pairs to tether with each other when the buffs expire. Prioritize de-shielding all the adds if they're spawning while your buff is getting low. The trick here is, instead of having one person float between 2 relays and rebuffing each time, you want to have set pairs that always buff together. Or, you can have a set group of 3 teleport to a specific relay and tether together as a team. Things can get really hairy when you get to the angelic phases, as you'll have angelics and shielded enemies all attacking at once. Once you finally activate the middle area, you'll only want 3 people to tether for the first time, unlike all 6 shown here in the video. We found out the hard way that this creates a major issue after the first wave of angelics because you'll have shielded adds everywhere as your buff expires, and the boxes lock because more angelics spawn. Instead, designate 3 people to tether first, and then 3 people to tether second after the first round of angelics. That way, you'll always have people enlightened to clear shields. Keep repeating this until it's done. The third triumph is called Relay Rally, and states that you have to defeat the consecrated mind without allowing any player with the relay buff to kill a combatant. This one we definitely fiddled with until we found a pretty good strategy. It required swapping out players constantly in a rotation. The rotation was the following. First, being on the boss team shooting eyes, but being on the left or the right. Then, being the person that actually picks up the overflow. Then, moving to Minotaur duty, killing the Minotaur and collecting 5 motes, then taking those 5 motes to the relay to deposit them, and getting enlightenment. Then, use the enlightenment to only pop the shields off the enemies. You actually want to have another player actually kill them. Then, you move to being the ad killer once your buff expires. And finally, you go back to the boss I team. So you have a cycle where everyone does each roll once before the damage phase. So, to start, Split your team into 3 people to do the first boss eyes. These 3 people should also start the encounter by tethering. Note, the people who start the encounter will get the enlightenment buff, so they literally cannot shoot anything when the encounter starts. However, you can run to where the boss spawns to kill yourself quickly because you can actually self-revive here without wasting a token, and this removes your buff. These 3 people follow the boss to the first spot and collect the overflow and shoot the eyes as normal. On Gambit team, 1 person will immediately run to the relay and act as the ad killer, and 1 person will stay in the middle to kill the Minotaur and pick up the first 5 motes. The 3rd person will kind of just hang out helping clear ads in the middle because they are going to move to the boss team after the first overflow is collected. So, at this point, you'll have 1 person who deposited motes with the enlightenment at the relay and 1 person without the enlightenment at the relay. It's the person with the buff's job to literally shoot the shielded ads once to remove their shields, and let the other person do all the slaying. Keep going back and forth to keep the ads away from the relay. Now, on the boss team side of things, once the first overflow has been dropped, the person who picked it up will then head back to the middle and search for the Minotaur, because they are going to get the next 5 motes and then head to the relay. The unbuffed person from the relay will swap out with them and head back to the middle, as they will now be on the boss team. Keep repeating that rotation until DPS phase. Only pick up 5 motes at a time, so each person will do each roll 1 time. Also note, depending on your timing, there may be a situation or 2 where the boss team only has 2 people due to swap outs. If this happens, the Dedane person will be responsible for the top flap and one of the side ones, though they have to be quick. Repeat this all again if you don't finish the boss in 1 phase. The final triumph is called Stop Hitting Yourself and is done in the final encounter. To complete this, you have to defeat the Sanctified Mind after killing 20 enemies with Vex Instantiation. Oh, and one more note about this triumph. It sucks. Anyways, so what is Vex Instantiation? It's the mechanic where a section of the floor is either removed or rebuilt and can kill anything when it happens. So, you have to kill at least 20 enemies using this before you can take down the boss. This one is interesting and very frustrating. The best strategy I've found is to get the goblins to congregate at one of the relays once it is full. When you start the encounter, do it as normal, set up and killing everything, letting the boss remove the plates. Make sure you pay attention if any goblins are actually getting destroyed in those plates when it happens and count them aloud. Once the relay is full, we usually start on the left, nothing can sacrifice anymore. At this point, you want to set your well of radiance and bubbles and whatever you're using to set up for your main area at the other active relay to keep protecting it. But you want to let all the enemies on the side with the full relay stay alive and congregate near it. Then, using healing rifts or wells or bubble or something to give you some extra health, you can rebuild the section near the relay to kill as many of the goblins as you can. You can also get lucky sometimes and the boss will remove that section. It can also help narrow down sections that the boss will take by continuously shooting the weak point that you're not using and have him take extra floors. If you can keep up with the Cyclops, this is a great way to get rid of all the floors so you can focus on just building the ones near the left relay, if that's the one you're using. Keep in mind that if you let a lot of goblins congregate by the relay and you need to rebuild it, you're going to need supers. Bubbles and wells are best to be able to survive long enough to get the build off. Tether can also help stun them so you can get it off. Be sure to not lose sight of the mechanics of the encounter. Many times during the attempts, we'd actually get very focused on getting the goblin kills, we'd lose out on a mote or miss a step, and it can ultimately cause a wipe. So keep trying, make sure to communicate who's building and where each is standing before you get it, and keep pecking away. You'll eventually get it. Finally guys, if you found this video helpful, please drop a like or a subscription to get more Destiny 2 raid guides. Thanks again to Clean_Killer for the video footage that I used in this video, and until next time.